This interview took place at the Coaches Congress in Berlin, and I had the chance to interview Dr. Christina Migliara, who is not only a mental health professional, but also a CrossFit coach and owner of a CrossFit box. And we talk about the very important topic of mental health, not only when it comes to CrossFit, but also in general. So enjoy this episode and have fun with Dr. Christina Migliara.
You may come into the gym and you may present with this goal of, I want to lose weight or I want to gain muscle. Essentially, that message is, I'm not comfortable in my own skin. I'm not okay with who I am at this moment. And then my question becomes, why? We can get you there physically. You can do all of the changes you want and reach all of those goals. But if you're still left with the same mindset, then it doesn't matter what kind of body you have. It doesn't matter what goals you've reached. If you've gotten a bar muscle up, we're not talking about you being authentically you and the best version of you. And you can't be the best version of you if we're not talking about what's going on between the ears.
Welcome to the Best Hour of Your Day podcast. This is your host, Felix, and in this podcast, I am interviewing CrossFitters and experts from around the world. Get this thing started. I mean, it looks good.
Sounds good to me.
It's not your first podcast, right?
It is not.
How many did you do?
Over what span of time? I've done a few throughout the last few years.
Like 100?
No, I'm not. Not that many. But I do a few a year. Yeah, I'd say like maybe a handful or so a year. I like podcasts because it's a lot of back and forth dialogue, which I prefer more of that than just coming up and talking.
Yeah.
And people listening. I like the interaction. Typical therapist.
Yeah. I mean, that's a very important aspect, right? Is there any specific podcast that like pops up when you think about the last few years, which you're probably very proud of, or maybe, I don't know, anything?
Well, I've done several with Nicola Coyne through HSN Mentoring. They have a podcast, and I've been on her podcast a number of times, and those are always great, and I enjoy those. I got to do one with her. It was like a dual podcast where we both were on, sort of an afterthought for me. I happened to be at the right place at the right time and got pulled on the stage to do one with her with Affiliate U, and got to be on their podcast at the CrossFit Games, and that was fun.
Oh, that's cool. And I saw you did a podcast with the Best Hour of Your Day,
yes,
right?
I'm sorry, that's Best Hour of Your Day. Yes,
yeah.
That's those guys. So.
Okay. And it just wrote me like a couple of weeks back, and maybe I will interview them as well.
There you go. Yeah, they're a fun group of guys.
Yeah, it's cool. So actually my podcast, when you translate the Best Hour of Your Day to German, it means die beste Stunde des Tages. That's what it's like, the translation.
Okay.
And my podcast, it's called, when you translate it back to English, it's very similar to the Best Hour of Your Day. But when I named my podcast, I didn't know their podcast. So it's a little bit awkward, right?
That's so funny.
Maybe it looks like I stole their name, but I didn't.
No, I'm sure they would be honored.
I mean, in the end, the name, it came from the fact that I was thinking in the gym, when the people are coming to the gym, they're having a good time, a great time.
Correct.
And most of the time, it's their best hour of the day, right? And
you know it.
Probably because they named it after that. So, so cool. It's a special occasion here in Berlin. And we're at obviously, if you watch the video podcast, we're at the Coaches Congress. And I have the opportunity to interview you and other great speakers who are giving their speech here at the weekend. And this topic we're talking about is a very special one for me because I think it's very important. And a lot of people, they don't really talk about it. They try to, not talk about it because it's very difficult to talk about it. And maybe just you want to hide it, maybe. I don't know. And we're talking about mental health, especially when it comes to CrossFit, for example. And you're someone who is exposed to both the mental side of things and the CrossFit side of things. And it's a very, very nice opportunity for me today.
Sure. Well, thank you for the opportunity to be with you. Those two things are very special to me as well, as a mental health professional and someone who invests in their own mental health and believes very much in that, as well as the physical health side of things. The goal for me has been to bridge that gap between mental and physical health and show the power of the mind-body connection and how that plays a intricate role. And this idea that the mind and the body are separate is a long held misconception. And we have a ton of research that supports that they are in fact very much connected and influence each other. And you cannot train or treat one without the other. And if you neglect one, it will impact the other. And there's lots of manifestations of that and examples of that. But I don't think people put the two and two together until we start talking about it. And they're like, oh my God, that makes so much sense. Or I didn't even think about it like that. So thank you for the opportunity to keep shedding the light on something that's really important.
So you were a mental health professional way before you became a CrossFit affiliate owner and CrossFit enthusiast. How did the mental health thing started for you?
Sure. Well, I learned to invest in my own mental health when I was much younger, and just facing some challenges, and became full of insight of how that could impact my life. And I think once that door opened for me, I just never stopped, and grew up to become who I am today. And I just believe in the power of mental health and therapy and taking care of yourself and just being your authentic best self. And that's where it started for me. So I wanted to be able to give back what I knew became extremely influential and powerful for me. And who knows where I would be today without that. So I became a mental health professional first. I've always enjoyed sports to some degree growing up. So I was a physical kid, very active, and didn't really think about putting those two things together, to be honest with you, for a very long time. I totally share that mindset and mentality of separateness between mental health and physical health. So I've basically been a mental health professional for the last 20 years, and up until my own personal journey within CrossFit about a decade ago now, didn't really have the two blended. So I consider myself now a reformed mental health professional because of where I've come from and how much I've learned and how I've bridged the gap for myself and my own practices. And I've enjoyed CrossFit for the last 10 years as an athlete, and in the last 4.5 years as an affiliate owner.
In the recent past, you saw a lot of CrossFit Games athletes struggling with their mental health, especially on the girls' side. It's a very demanding sport, especially when you look at the very competitive field. How does mental health, or what impact does the mental health has on the sport itself for a professional athlete, for example?
Sure. I mean, there's a lot of physical demands, obviously, that we see that comes from CrossFit that separates and gives you that eliteness. But we don't often talk about and think about the mental health side of things. And if you think a lot about many professional sports, there are a whole team of people that help that athlete or that team of athletes. You have your physical side of things, but you even have some sports that even include mindset or mental health components to it, like a sports psychologist, for example, who are working on the mindset component with their teams or with their athletes. And for me, CrossFit's no different. When you are doing anything that's asking that much of you, it makes it even more important to be focused on caring for your mind and your health, your mental health. So we are starting to see, I think, a little of that sort of manifesting more publicly. And that's just an indicator we haven't done enough to help those athletes focus on that side of their training. And we're training too much of our bodies and not enough of our mind and spending time there. And I think that's a great opportunity to really mitigate some of those mental health issues that people are facing.
So you're an affiliate owner like I am for 4 years now. And I saw it in the past when the people, they join the CrossFit box because they want to get fit. They want to look good. They want to feel good. And so the primary goal is, how do I get better at the sport kind of thing? And then maybe a second layer is, how do I fix my nutrition? But the mental health is not a thing for a lot of people, especially in the beginning. But when I look at my athletes and the people who train at my CrossFit box, there are a lot of people who I feel they're running away from something and they try to hide, or they're using the sport as some kind of safe house or whatever. How do you experience those kind of things in your own CrossFit box?
Yeah, so That's something that I observed, being a part of CrossFit prior to being an affiliate owner. And, when I was a practitioner, and I still practice, a lot of the times I would be making CrossFit or fitness and part of the treatment recommendations with my clients. Like, hey, you got to move your body. We can't just be sitting here talking about how you're going to go out and do things in life and make better choices if we're not including the whole picture, which, we're very client-centered and holistic approach with people. So we're talking about nutrition, movement, all of those things. So doing that in the affiliate is no different. If we're going to talk about your physical training, we're going to talk about the whole person. So we're going to talk about mental health in addition to nutrition and those other pieces, the recovery, the sleep, the stress management. We can't stress manage. We can't address those things if we don't address the root cause of why people are feeling the way they're feeling. So you may come into the gym and you may present with this goal of, I want to lose weight or I want to gain muscle. Essentially, that message is, I'm not comfortable in my own skin. I'm not okay with who I am at this moment. And then my question becomes, well, why? What, has transpired that has led you to feel that way? We can get you there physically. You can do all of the changes you want and reach all of those goals. But if you're still left with the same mindset, then it doesn't matter what kind of body you have. It doesn't matter what goals you've reached. If you've gotten a bar muscle up, no matter how much weight you've lifted on the bar, if we're not talking about you being authentically you and the best version of you. And you can't be the best version of you if we're not talking about what's going on between the ears. So we want to have those conversations. And essentially knowing that, we've just made sure that we make it a part of our conversation from the onset. The moment you walk through our doors, we're normalizing the importance of mental health and having those conversations and how we do that in our facility. People know that I'm a mental health professional. My staff is constantly trained on, mindset and mental health, and we just make those conversations very normal. And there's a lot of different things I could go into that you can do in your gym to make that happen. That's part of what I do as a mentor with HSN mentoring when we talk about mental health and mindset in the course that we have, and just helping affiliate owners learn how to incorporate mental health more normally into their gym and reduce that stigma.
Why do you think that a lot of people are afraid to seek professional help when it comes to the mental side of things, but when they're like having problems with their body, like with their arm, their leg, whatever, they're having no problem seeking help? So what do you think there's this big difference?
I think a big part of it is that mental health still has a stigma that's attached to it. And particularly the stigma of, if you have to go and talk about your feelings or something you're going through, your difficulties, you're weak. Particularly with men's mental health, there's this equation of, if I have feelings and if I share my feelings and if I talk about my difficulties, I'm going to be viewed as weak. I think it's a little bit easier for women than men when it comes to that. But generally speaking, there's a number of factors that can play into that with respect to culture and just religious, different beliefs, what you've been taught growing up. That narrative is long held by people, and just how we're portraying that in general. So I don't think we've done enough, which is a big part of what I do, that advocacy and that educational piece of trying to destigmatize mental health and celebrating the health side of mental health, that mental health doesn't always equate to mental illness. People think mental health, they think, oh, you must have a diagnosis. There must be something seriously wrong with you. And it's like, no, actually, everyone has mental health. How well or fit mentally you are is very determined on how you care for yourself. So to ignore it only puts you further on that sick side of the sick, well, fit continuum, which I talk about, that same continuum we talk about physically. I talk about that with mental health and how there are markers that you can look for and that you can measure that can tell whether somebody is mentally fit versus mentally unwell and sick.
Do you think social media has a big impact on that topic? I mean, on the one side, people are sharing their stories and other people see it and they feel connected. On the other side, social media shows a fake world where people like posting pictures of whatever they're doing and it looks like it's their regular day. And other people feel really bad about it because they don't have that great life. So what's your opinion on that?
Social media is a slippery slope. On one hand, I do think that it can be used in a really healthy way to advocate, like you said, sharing stories, getting more of that information out about normalizing mental health and putting out there that like, hey, we all have it. We all go through tough times. And that it's a good thing to embrace the mental health side and do things for your mental health that are going to help you to feel well. The other side of that is that if we're spending too much time on social media, that need to compare to others, for those of us who are not in the best of places mentally, we can start to go down that negative pathway of basically removing the joy of the journey that we are on by overly comparing to others and getting caught up in the fantasy that social media can portray. So you've got to be really careful and mindful about that. And there's definitely ways to do that, but I think the easiest way is to limit your amount of social media exposure and who you follow. And as long as you're taking care of your own mental health, and getting outside, not sitting inside on with your face behind a screen all day and just living that life, I think that you could probably have a solid relationship with it.
Are there any signs that I might struggle a little bit with my mental health and that I need to seek professional help? Is there like anything that when I look at myself, when I look in the mirror and I feel like, okay, I look a little bit fat, that's probably not a big thing, right? Because I am who I am. But is there anything that you would say, okay, when you think about or when you have certain thoughts, maybe you should consider seeing someone?
Sure. So one of the things that I think is important to address in terms of the stigma is to realize that you don't have to be feeling bad or sick, or there doesn't have to be some major life crisis that is the catalyst for you seeking out help. I think it's very normal and healthy for people to want to talk to a mental health professional, even to just get some general life mentorship, make sure that they're on the right track with what they're trying to accomplish, and goal set for themselves. That being said, some of the, I think, more red flags are going to be things like changes in your daily routine, you finding yourself isolating more, removing yourself from social situations and friends that you normally would hang out with. A lot of the avoidance behaviors, right? Like not wanting to leave home, getting away from more of your daily routine things, like not going to the gym and not being around your friends and just sitting, at home in bed on Netflix or calling out sick from work. So the avoidant behaviors are definitely one to be mindful of. The conversation that you're having with yourself, if you're starting to have some intrusive thoughts of hopelessness and helplessness, feeling really down and bad about yourself, some of that negative self-talk and just, looking in the mirror, like you said, and not feeling good about what you see, those are all good red flag indicators that you may want to reach out for someone. If you've gone through a major life transition, a move, a divorce, a major loss in life, good idea to talk to someone because those can be impactful and you don't always realize it.
Are there any red flags inside the gym you see with the people who train in your gym, for example, where you probably go to them and tell them, hey, maybe we should talk about a certain thing? For example, when I train in the gym and I see people who are completely frustrated that they don't get the double under or the muscle up and they're throwing the rope in the corner, and I see that all week, and I'm very peaceful in my center and I don't really care, right? So I don't give a shit if I like PR workout today or not. But for other people, it's very important, and they are very frustrated. And when they leave the gym, you feel like they don't feel good, they don't feel well. So is there anything we should, as coaches, look out for?
Yeah, absolutely. So some of the same types of behaviors, right? If you know your members as coaches best. And if you start to see, some aggressive behavior like that, where they're throwing things or getting easily frustrated, when you see changes in their behavior, because normally they're a happy-go-lucky person and then they just seem a little bit more quiet or a little bit more to themselves and they're not interacting with the members. Just, body language, if they look a little bit more, reserved, hiding back in the corner of the gym, just that avoidant behavior, it's a good indicator that you may want to check in with them and say, hey, I kind of observed you a little bit today. What's going on? Something going on with you? Or, just kind of explore it a little bit, see if you can get them to share. That way you can provide a little bit of feedback, staying within your scope, some support. Hey, we're here for you. Anything that you need, maybe even recommend, like, I know you're going through something. If they do disclose it to you, that feels a little bit heavy, but the gym is a healthy place for you to come and work through some of that. However, it may not be a bad idea for you to also talk to someone. Have you thought about that? If you haven't, or you don't have someone, here's a list of local providers. But that would be important for you as the gym owner and the coach to make sure that you have a list of providers on hand that you can hand to this person. Of course, making sure this is off to the side, not in front of other members, more privately, because you don't want anyone feeling guilty or shameful, and you don't want to embarrass anyone.
Yeah, mental health is such a big topic, and unfortunately, not enough people are really talking about it. So the importance is, it's so big. And I think during the last few years, I feel like it changed a little bit to the better.
Sure.
But there is still a long way to go. And thanks to people like you who bridge the gap, I see a light at the end of the tunnel. And I hope that there are some more therapists like you, even in Germany, who fall in love with CrossFit, and then they can combine the training with their practice. And that would be awesome.
That would be awesome. I would love for that day to come, and I'm happy to be a part of that. And I'm open to continuing and talking to people like you to keep spreading the word, and hopefully we can inspire both sides, both the mental health side to see the benefits of, the physical side of things for clients that they are serving, as well as, the mental health side for those people who come in through our doors for the physical change to see the benefits, because that's really what's going to lead to the best life. So I'm looking forward to that.
Thanks a lot for your time. I know you have a busy schedule that weekend, and I really appreciated that we talked about this very important topic, and hope to see you soon.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
If you like this episode, please leave us a rating on Apple or Spotify. See you next time.